This is Bleav in Buckeyes. I'm Brian Browning with All-American cornerback Chinny Chekwa. This show is brought to you by FanDuel, and we have a very special guest. One of the guys, I don't know, I've been following you on Twitter probably since I got a Twitter, man. But we got Jonah Booker here from Bucknuts, joining out from the West Coast. Not the West Coast, but Pacific time line. What's on time zone? How you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm doing well, and I'm happy to be here, man. And yeah, I've been following you guys. I listen to your podcast. You guys always bring A+ quality content, so I'm excited to chop it up with you guys tonight.
Oh, man, we appreciate it. Thanks for hyping it up. Chim, how you doing, man? Heard you got a sprinter in the family that's close to you, working on some football stuff. What's going on, man?
Yeah, man, I got a young cousin, man. Fastest he has in the 100 meters, the second fastest time, all time. So I had to fly him out to Ohio, and we're going to try to test out playing some football, man. We'll see. We'll see, teach him how to catch, see if I can, work him into playing the receiver this year at his high school down in Houston. So, yeah, it's good times, but, that's not what we're focused on here, man.
I think 10-1? I mean,
10-1.
Yeah. Hey, we got to let people know we know him early, so when they become big time,
right.
Like, hey, we told you about this guy, man. Like, but no, man, yeah, let's get into it, man. So the coaches poll dropped here just today. You had Texas 1, Ohio State number 2, and obviously week 1 matchup. I think this is the first time in history coaches poll 1 and 2 are playing each other week 1 of the season. But what does that mean to you? I mean, it's going to be at noon, so I'm going to say that the bright light's not coming, but how's it going?
On big noon, JBook, big noon, you get the big time matchup 1 versus 2. How do you feel about that, man? How you feeling about that?
I'm so disappointed that it's on big noon. Like, this right here epitomizes one of the biggest games of all of college football. Why you come to Ohio State? You guys can, speak on that, but you come to Ohio State to be on the biggest stage where the lights are the brightest. This right here never happened before. 1 versus 2 coaches poll, and it's at noon. I mean, this right here feels like it should be the primetime kickoff, and we got a taste of it against Tennessee. And I talked to some people who works kind of the background and the scoreboards and all that stuff leading up to the playoff, and they were like, dude, we got so much cool stuff planned, but we never can actually use it because all of our big games are at noon, and the Tennessee game in the playoff comes around. You got drone shows, you got light shows everywhere. They're playing music, and you look at that, and it's like, where was this? And they were like, oh, we've had this. We just can never use it because of Fox. And here we go again. But I still expect that game to be electric because first game of the season, you got Arch Manning coming in, and the storylines for that game is just immaculate because everywhere you turn, you look at that game and he was like, there's so many storylines because Arch coming in. Is he as good as everybody's hyping him up to be? That's the big question. Matt Patricia coming in doesn't have any film for Texas to really game plan around. So can Matt Patricia throw the kitchen sink at Arch because they're going to try to look back at that playoff game with Jim Knowles. They're not going to get a whole lot with Matt Patricia coming in from New England. And then on the other side, there's a whole lot of pressure on Steve Sarkisian because they're saying, hey, you got the next coming. Arch is the next Andrew Luck type of quarterback who's a can't-miss prospect. You come up to the shoe and get your wig split with the can't-miss prospect. That right there is going to really set the tone for the narrative going forward.
Yeah, for sure. It's already been declared that Arch Manning is the greatest quarterback to ever touch a football. So all the pressure is on the coach at this point, right?
Yeah.
And, you made a good point in terms of this is the first game of the year. There's no film, right? You got a new defensive coordinator at Ohio State, so Texas doesn't necessarily have the defensive film, although I expect the coaches to go back and look at Patriots defense, Detroit Lions defense, and try to get an indication of how Matt Patricia might structure that defense, but they're not going to know, right? But there's also some new faces, right, at quarterback, and we don't know exactly who that new face is going to be. We have some ideas, But I think that's one thing that might be beneficial for a noon game is that you got a young quarterback coming in. He doesn't have to wait around all day, take a nap in the middle of the day, have a dream that he got sacked by a Texas defensive lineman, and be stressed out and then have to come out there and play under the bright lights. He actually gets to just wake up and get to it, and it feels just like waking up and getting to practice, early in the day, getting through the game, and he just can go through his routine. So I think that does benefit the young players a little bit. But then we miss an opportunity for a big time 1 versus 2 matchup in the shoe under the bright lights for sure.
Yeah, no, the one thing about Texas and Steve Sarkisian, he is known for probably being one of the best offense coordinator when it comes to scripting the opening offense. Where Steve Sarkisian gets in trouble is if he's not dialing you up on that opening script, he doesn't do a very good job adjusting after those opening sequences of plays. You make a good point about the young quarterback with this opening game early. Whoever the starting quarterback is going to be, we all think is probably going to be Julian Sayin. You have all summer to come up with that script for him to say, okay, these 15, 20 plays, we know that you are very good at executing these plays. So we're going to have these in. So you can go ahead and work all summer long. And you guys know, once you start getting into middle of the season game prep, you go from finishing the current game, getting your treatment, and then it's on to preparing for the next game. Right now, while you're in the summer preparation, you can say our focus is okay, 100% on Texas. We have 3 weeks, 4 weeks right now. Let's make sure that we have a perfect script. It was a script that we can execute at a high level for Julian Sayin out the gates to make sure that he's comfortable, because this is probably going to be the best front seven that he's going to face all year with that Texas front seven. They're loaded. Michigan's pretty darn good, but this Texas front, you're talking about a front seven that's loaded with NFL talent.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And like you was stating, FanDuel still has Ohio State as the favorite, a 2.5 point favorite right now. Obviously, we got 3 or 4 weeks until you get into it. But, with that quarterback competition, there's always been, not always, but recently, a lot of conversation around Lincoln. And obviously, he's kind of in that role fighting for 1 and 2. And recently, he was named Iron Man. They had like an Iron Man list of Buckeyes, and he was on that list. Don't know exactly what that means, but I feel like he was kind of like a workout warrior here leading up into the season. What's your thoughts on Lincoln and trying to keep him involved in the team, maybe some packages, things of that nature? So if he does not win the spot, he still could feel like he's in tune to the team and not sitting out or looking forward to the transfer portal, things of that nature.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep him involved. What do you guys think? My theory is they're probably going to make an official decision probably 2 weeks out from that Texas game, probably towards that last scrimmage of the season, because as you start to gear down camp, you probably have an idea who your guy's going to be. You want to start getting them the bulk of those first team reps so that as you start to head into that last week, okay, we're transitioning out of camp phase. Now it's time for actual game prep week. At that point, I think you probably need to declare who your starter is. But if it's Julian, you still have to have some way to keep Lincoln Kienholz involved, because I think he does bring an athleticism to the table that you can say, hey, maybe, a small package here and there. I'm not saying, doing a Tim Tebow, Chris Leak type of situation, but definitely keeping them involved. Now, I don't know how much you can do that against Texas, because you probably want to make sure that your main guy's comfortable and get in the rhythm. But as you look at that Texas game, you probably got about 4 games that you feel that, hey, both guys can go out there and execute at a high level, and we can get out of there with a win. But I truly believe that Lincoln Kienholz will have some type of role with this team this year, regardless of if he's, called to back up and Julian's the starter.
Yeah, I think the contrast in skill sets allows you to really work with 2 quarterbacks. And whether it's a small package, whether it's some run pass option type plays that you can use with Lincoln, I think it's useful. They try to do some of that with McCord and Devin Brown, but it didn't feel very effective. But I do think it's useful. One, because Julian Sayin is a young quarterback, and this is a long season. And in a long season, a lot of things can happen. So you want the other quarterback who also hasn't gotten any real reps outside of that, that bowl game versus Missouri that didn't feel like he was ready yet, right?
Then we just kind of showed up, right?
So you want to, and obviously, I mean, it's Ohio State. There's gonna be some blowouts. He's gonna get some reps against lesser talent, but you just want to put him in there and get a feel for what's out there. And you can give a young quarterback, a truly young quarterback like Julian Sayin, a little bit of rest in certain areas and allow Lincoln to go out there. It's not really disrupting him that much in a big game like this, where he's going to go the next game and get a ton of reps versus a lesser opponent. So I do like if they decide to move forward and give Lincoln a few packages, some RPO type plays. I think one, it's a good little change up for a defense in Texas who is going to be a pretty good defense. I mean, let's be honest, it's going to be a pretty good defense. And I know, as being a part of a pretty good defense, we want to get some young quarterback. I don't care if it's in college, the NFL, etc. You feel good about a young quarterback. You feel good that if the game plan adds a few wrinkles here and there, that he's not going to be able to process it. He's not going to be able to decipher what he's looking at, and that's going to give you an opportunity to make some big time plays. So, I think adding some safer RPO options, quarterback run type plays can be a useful way for one, Ohio State to move the ball, and two, for Lincoln to continue to be engaged in this offense.
Yeah, I think this Texas game, I said it on Twitter last week, I think it's actually going to be a low-scoring game. When you look at all of the dynamics in play here, you're talking about breaking in Brian Hartline as a first-time offensive coordinator. You're going against, arguably, like I said earlier, the best front seven in college football. They have a NFL safety who decided to come back. So they showed, even when Ohio State was loaded last year in offense, that they were a formidable defense. I mean, that was an absolute knockdown, drag-out fight against Texas, and they were putting that too high, a safety over top against Jeremiah to try to slow him down. They're going to try to force Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis to make some plays. When on the flip side of that, Matt Patricia, he's going to throw the kitchen sink at Arch. Very first time Arch has ever played in this type of environment, starting against a quality opponent. I think his first game that he might have started was like a Mississippi State, wasn't very good. So this is the toughest opponents that he's ever went up against. And the other thing, Texas is returning probably like one or two starters on the offensive line. They actually just had one of the guys who were the right tackle who was competing for the starting job. He tore his knee out. Hate to hear that, man. You never want to wish injuries for kids. And so now they're probably going to be starting a freshman on that right side, Brandon Baker. So you're looking at a situation. There's so many question marks. The key to me is, can Larry Johnson's defensive front create a lot of pressure and havoc against that Texas offensive line, who's going to be coming in, very green? If they can create a lot of havoc, I think that bodes well for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, that's a great transition. I mean, you almost like you got my notes in front of you, but I wanted to ask you about our defensive line. Obviously, I feel like if it's one thing you could kind of question about our Ohio State team returning, is that defensive tackle position. Obviously, we're going with Edric Houston inside, and you hear like early on he kind of got nicked up a little bit. Didn't seem to be that bad. Looked like he kind of got right back out there, but he's now practicing in a knee brace. And then on the ends, you're kind of hearing some praise, right? You're hearing praise from from the guys talking about KJ and him kind of stepping up his game, looking like maybe a first-round talent. We bring in Bo Atkinson out of North Carolina. So I'm hearing him being very disruptive and getting in the backfield and kind of shaking some things up there. But what's your thoughts about our defensive line in total? Are we the same unit from last year, or
Right. I mean, last year you're talking about NFL guys. Tyleek was an absolute dog in the middle, And Hamilton, he was a beast as well. He really didn't get a lot of the praise, but they called him bobblehead because he would just absolutely destroy Big Ten centers to where he would fire off the ball with such force and violence that their head was snapping back, and that allowed the linebackers to play a little bit clean behind them. But this year's group, I think, is going to be contingent on the D tackles. I think K-Mac has the potential to be, a heck of a ball player. The question is can he handle as many snaps that they're going to be asking for him? Because that was kind of his issue last year. Is they're saying like he was kind of battling through conditioning, like he was great in spurts. Now he's going to be taking on a much bigger role. Can he be that dominant force at the one technique? I think he can. Edric Houston, as long as he's healthy, he looked like he has the potential to be really good. The thing with the defensive line is you're questioning, can they get after the quarterback? As you mentioned, Kenyatta Jackson, they've mentioned him. Sonny Styles in Las Vegas at the Big Ten was just gushing about how much Kenyatta Jackson looks like a first-round pick, like you said. If Bo Atkinson can give them an elite pass rush, you're talking about 2-6-6 defensive ends anchoring that defensive line, and then you got Caden Curry, and you got the George kid that transferred, I think, from like Idaho State.
Idaho, yeah.
Yeah, like Idaho. And then the other element to throw into it is you're talking about a Matt Patricia's defense. They're going to have some elements of a 3-4 look there, and that's what he kind of specializes in. So now you start throwing in CJ Hicks. What's he going to be able to do? Can he, bend that arc and get after the quarterback? They've been praising his work ethic and how he's kind of transitioned to being in Larry Johnson's room. And then you also throw in a situation where they believe that Sonny Styles is going to get certain packages in Matt Patricia's defense. I do think the one, regardless if Jim Knowles was going to be here this year or if it's going to be Matt Patricia, whoever the quarterback was or the defensive coordinator was going to be, they were going to be more diverse in their looks because under Larry, they were primarily down in, down out, 4 defensive linemen. Ryan Day had mentioned like, hey, we want to be a little bit more diverse in our fronts and our looks. And I think Matt Patricia is going to be able to do that considering his background in New England.
Yeah, and I think for Texas, I think the true key for Texas is going to be their run game. And I think I think they're going to go back and look at this playoff game from this last playoff and say we have to run the ball better. Whether that's quarterback run, running back, whether that's our RPO pass game, etc. They're going to want to get into that run and short passing game on the road in a hostile environment against Ohio State. And I think they will feel confident that if they can get ahead of schedule early on, that they're not going to have to worry about the KJs and, all those defensive ends coming off the edge. I think they're really going to try to attack the tackles, try to run the ball in there, and eliminate third and long situations so that they can be able to stay ahead of schedule. And I think that's going to be the key to the game. I think the ability to stop the run, keep the linebackers clean, those big guys up front, can a McDonald, can he take the snaps and be able to be effective to the entire game? Can he be disruptive in the run game, which we know he can, but can he do it consistently throughout the game? I think that's going to be key and be important for this Ohio State defense and for them to win this game.
And you look at we talk about the defensive tackles. You also keep in mind it's going to be hot. First game of the season. K-Mac's not going to be able to give you 70, 80 snaps. You already know that. So the next wave of guys are critical in how this defense performs. I mean, who's going to be the next one to step up? Is it going to be Jason Moore? Will Smith Jr. is starting to have his name called out by the coaches of someone who's starting to, come into his own, mode where he's starting to make a name for himself. That's going to be critical. Like, hey, we know we're going to have to be able to rotate, but we can't have a significant drop-off when that next wave of guys come in here because, as you mentioned, Chimdi, they're going to try to run the football. They're going to test that middle to see what they're all about. You've lost some meat in that middle with Tyreek and Hamilton. That was the one thing that Texas really struggled with in the bowl game against Ohio State. They weren't able to consistently run the football. So their counter to that was let's get the running backs out into the pass game. And that's where you saw them trying to exploit getting their running backs one-on-one with the linebackers in the pass game. And that was where a lot of their chunk plays were coming from in the bowl game.
No, that's all very good points. Because I mean that's how it played out, right? And obviously we're gearing up here for Texas, right? But Jay, but I gotta hit you on something because my man Chum, he always got a certain mindset when it comes to Penn State. And I saw a tweet from you recently talking about Penn State, and essentially at FanDuel, the odds are they got Penn State at plus 750 to be national champions. That's fourth on the list to go Texas, Georgia, us, and then Penn State. But a lot of the talking heads are picking Penn State, right? They got a lot of things coming back.
FanDuel needs to adjust those odds.
Running back.
FanDuel needs to adjust
those
odds.
Hey, that's where where the money is going on things. What's your thought on James Franklin and his program in the Nittany Lions? And is this the year that they could finally get over the hump in the Big Ten? And obviously they made a run in the playoffs, but this is the year you think they could put it all the way together and I don't know, shock the world, I guess.
Well, I mean, for them, it was fascinating because I was out of Las Vegas when they had the Big Ten Media Days, and a lot of the talk out there was championship or bust for Penn State. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I was like, a lot of people can't. I didn't even like that talk for Ohio State because that right there is a significant amount of pressure to say championship or bust for a program. And I'm like, I don't know if James Franklin can handle that type of pressure. So when you look at this Penn State team, are they significantly better at the wide receiver position? Because against Notre Dame in a semifinal game, Drew Aller didn't even complete a pass to a wide receiver. So have they upgraded that position in the portal that much to where they're a true contender? The other aspect of it, and Ohio State fans witness it, is the Jim Knowles installation of his defense. You saw Jim Knowles coming in year one. They really wasn't full tilt at Ohio State defense. They got better now, but we also saw a situation to where Jim Knowles defense, they struggled to get off the field in big games in the fourth quarter. Never forced a punt against Michigan. You look at the Georgia game in 22, they were up 14 points in the fourth quarter, national championship on the line. They ended up giving up like 200 plus yards in the fourth quarter, 17 points on 18 plays. So you know that Jim Knowles' defense takes time. I don't know if this Penn State team has time. It took them 3 years with a Caleb Downs, with a loaded defense for that defense to really come into form. At Penn State, they're in a situation to where the window is to win now. But Jim Knowles has always said it takes 3 years to get my defense to where it's playing at a championship level. And I always thought that was fascinating because defense really was never the issue with Penn State. They've always had a pretty solid defense, regardless of how you feel about James Franklin overall as a big game coach. Their defense has always been pretty solid. It's always been the inconsistency of the quarterback play with Drew Aller and their ability to push the ball down the field. I don't know. But I'm in that mode I need to see it before I believe it, man, with Penn State. Because they believe they have the blueprint. They're trying to do the same blueprint as Michigan to where, hey, let's get all of our core veterans back and make one last run. And then Ohio State showed last year that blueprint does work. So they're trying to follow what the last two national champions have done. But I just don't have any faith in James Franklin to get it done.
Yeah, Jay, but you hit it on the head. They're following the blueprint. And I will commend Penn State and that they're doing that. I feel like they're doing everything right. Initially, I was skeptical. So I felt like, you guys really need receivers. You're not really investing in the receivers, but I think, given the way things went with the transfer portal and everything, I think they're they took all the right steps. I just don't believe in them. They are they are a second tier Big Ten team, right? They're going to compete. They're going to beat everybody they're supposed to beat. They're going to lose to the teams that they're supposed to lose to. And that's okay. That can get you a run in the playoffs. That can have you get close and compete for a national championship, but it won't get you over the hump. I still Bleav they're still there. I will say this about Jim Knowles, in that I don't anticipate that Jim knows the challenges that he had with Ohio State will be the same challenges that he'll have with Penn State. Jim Knowles is an intelligent defensive coordinator, but Jim Knowles' challenges with Ohio State is that he had never been at this level of Big Ten football, and he had to adjust. Now he's sliding over to Penn State. He knows Big Ten football now. I don't expect him to have the same mistakes, right? When you're playing in the Big 12 or you're in the ACC at Duke, it's just a different style of play where it doesn't account for just the physicalness up front that you really got to account for. And I don't anticipate that he'll make the same mistakes. So I think he'll learn from those mistakes, but I still don't Bleav that James Franklin can take a team week 1 expected to win a national championship and finish the season as a national champion. A championship or bust team preseason for Penn State? No, that's not. Their best position is flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about them, and they just stacking wins. As soon as we put them under the lights, things fall apart, and they've stepped into the light early. I feel like it's gonna hurt their chances of finishing on top.
That's a great point. I mean, and when you look at Penn State, I do agree with you. I do think they operate more as the underdog, the sleeper, the team that's going to creep up on you. They just can't finish. I mean, you look at the Ohio State games. I mean, the games have been competitive, but they just cannot finish. I mean, what was it? The year that Harbaugh got suspended and Sharon Moore went in there and didn't even run the foot or didn't even pass the football in the second half against them. I mean, they literally was running a rugby style offense at Penn State, and they still couldn't stop it and lost that game. I mean, this year they have Oregon at home. They come to the shoe. There's a couple little games here and there to where I think they play at Iowa, which might be a night game. And Ohio State fans, we know about playing at Iowa at nighttime. That game can get a little tricky here and there. Mm-hmm. But for Penn State, it all will boil down to quarterback play and wide receiver. I truly Bleav in today's era of football, you can't win a national championship if you can't stretch the field somewhat. And if you're Penn State, there's no way you can have another situation to where your quarterback doesn't complete a pass to a wide receiver. Drew Aller, I was looking at the stats earlier, he's like 48% completion percentage whenever he's going against top 5 teams. So that right there kind of tells you the inconsistency of his play. Like he's going to throw for 340 against Akron or teams like that they're playing against. When you see him against those type of lesser tier teams, you look at him and you're like, oh, he looks like a top 10 quarterback. He got the size, got the arm strength. He's dotting everybody up across the field. Then it comes to the big games, and this dude is seeing ghosts. And can he get over that hump? I don't know. He's a good kid, man. Like, and he's an Ohio kid, and he gets to that podium, and he takes a lot of grief from their fan base the way he performs in those big games. So we'll see.
I'm under that same stand. Like he's from Northeast Ohio, I'm from Northeast Ohio, so I always pulling for Drew a little bit, but at the same time, like I see how you see it. In big moments, it's like he's never really quite stepping up to it. And then at the end of the day, like James Franklin get all the heat for it, which is just like I don't know if Drew was always giving him the best opportunity to win. But
I mean, it's
Jonah
all,
Booker
it's all
here
James
from
Franklin,
from Bucknuts, we really appreciate it. Hold on.
It's on James Franklin, bro.
It's on James Franklin.
It's on James Franklin.
He can't throw the ball. He can't throw the ball. He can't.
But his decision making is what be killing him.
Yeah,
you look at the goal line stand that the Buckeyes had against them, fourth quarter at your house. Tyler Warren, who had been running Wildcat and picking up 8, 9, 10 yards. I mean, he's drafted early on by the Colts. He gets inside the 5-yard line and never gives it to Tyler Warren, but he's willing to run Wildcat at like the 50. And the other side of the 45-yard line, and the dude's taking you all the way down the field running Wildcat, but he decides to just run it right up the gut to K-Mac and Tyleek on goal line, 3 straight plays, and then they threw one on the back of the end zone that was incomplete. That right there is what Chimdi, when you say James Franklin, that's when I look at him as like, what are you doing, James? Like, that makes zero sense.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna offer the line guy. When in doubt, you put the game on your big guys up front and you tell them to go win it. No excuses, man. No excuses. But no, we appreciate the time, JBook. You joining our show. Obviously, we'll have you some more on throughout this season. You bringing in all your insight of college football and specifically about Ohio State Buckeyes. For our fans out there, please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, where we bring you all the information throughout camp and into the season where we actually face the Texas Longhorns. So we end the show as always with a nice OH.
Ayo.
Go Bucks. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.